What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to tell the story of Ish and talk about why it was such an amazing thing. Now, this is in honor of episode 5 of the show, right? We see this image. It's a little bit different of an image, and it's hung up versus Joel actually picking it up, but we see this, and we see two different rooms of this, kind of settlement that obviously we know Ish and the survivors had created, and that was pretty much it. And Neil Druckmann had said that was pretty much all we were going to get, right? Kind of short. You would know if you've played the games what we're hinting at, but we're not really going to go any more in depth with it. And in terms of the letters and the notes and stuff like that, right? We're only going to show this one. And this is iconic, right? Danny and Ish, and they're the protectors. This is what a child drew, and we know this is actually what they wore based off of other notes, right? They got the weaponry, they got the kind of equipment, and the child labeled these two as the group's protectors. And so I'm going to read out the story of Ish and the survivors. There's only about 7 or so notes. Most of them are actually from him, right? From Ish, but there's a couple that aren't. We're going to read them out, and then I want to talk about how this is one of the coolest stories, not just in this game, but I would say, honestly, kind of all time, not being a main thing, right? Kind of being a spin-off side thing, being something that is shown to you visually because you see what they did with this survivor camp. You see schools, you see places for children to play, right? You see a settlement, a civilization, but you're not, it's not a cutscene, it's not all this kind of fancy stuff, and then a lot of it is told through writing, right? And just kind of visual clues. You could see dead bodies and stuff like that. And then, of course, when you leave and you turn around and you see the door and all that stuff. Okay, so let's read through the story of Ish, and then we'll talk a little bit more about why it's so special. So firstly, it all starts when Joel and Ellie and Sam and Henry, this is that part of the game, when they stumble upon Ish's boat, right? And so this is the first note that you ever see with Ish's name. This was something that Ish wrote himself. Well, it's looking like I dodged the chaos and the mayhem long enough. My time out at sea is coming to an end. I'm short on supplies, and this boat has seen better days. And you know what? This was bound to happen sooner or later. I guess it's time to go see what's left of mankind. What could possibly go wrong, right? If you happen to find my skeleton, please don't step on my skull. Thanks, Ish. And so this starts to establish a theme, right, of like a loner. And this is going to connect to, I would say, honestly, an overall theme of The Last of Us. This was a guy who was isolated, who wanted to be alone, and he still wants to be alone. We'll read in the next couple notes. He still, he doesn't trust people. People are pretty evil out there, right? But eventually, he starts to think, well, why not? Like, we need to start to rebuild. We need to almost prove to ourselves that we can be better than this. So why not I do it? And let's do it. And let's see what happens to it. And that's what happens. And then at the very end, right, kind of being like, well, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to protect those who are left, and we'll go from there. And it's a big shift of his personality, right, of being this isolated guy to being, he cares about the future and all that kind of stuff. I think that's very, very powerful. It's a theme in general. It's a theme to Joel and Ellie and The Last of Us in general as well. Okay, so then you start to make your way through the sewers, and here's the next note that you find. I'm gone for a few months, and the world doesn't waste any time going to blank. Everywhere you turn, they're infected and non-infected trying to kill you. Mankind is back to the food chain, baby. I'm kind of shocked I've survived this long. These sewers seem pretty safe. Unlimited exits, entrances make it easier to defend, and if anyone gets in here, I can lose them in the maze. I might not be tough, but I'm quick. Maybe I just need to bide my time down here until it all gets sorted out up there. I think I'll become a sewer mole man for a while. Wish me luck. Then we have the trading note. Yesterday I met with some people who did not want to shoot me on sight. Shocking, I know. We traded some supplies and went on our merry way. They had kids with them, and they seemed pretty scared. I almost told them about this place. What if they're like the others? What if? You know what? I don't care. What's the point of surviving if you don't have someone to laugh at your lame jokes? Tomorrow I'm going to search for them, see if they want to join me in here. And now some of the people he's talking about, Susan, who is a reoccurring kind of, actually they're all reoccurring, right? Danny, Susan, Kyle, those are 3 people that are going to be brought up. I believe this is only talking about Susan, Kyle, and a couple, their children, right? It's talking about that group. I believe Danny came in separately, but again, these are kind of the reoccurring characters. Again, really smart because the whole story is Ish, right? Like that's the kind of thing. But you're told that just through notes and again through visual clues. And then you start to establish even more characters that are actually kind of cool. We'll see what happens to Kyle. It's actually a very depressingly dark thing. Susan, right? These characters continue to go on. So then the next note is actually from Kyle. So it's just the reverse angle, right? This is like Susan and Kyle, their group, and what they perceive of Ish at the time of when they first kind of met. So let's read this note. Another night, another shooting. I could see the muzzle flashes coming from the Carsons' windows. I stayed up the entire night with the whole family in one room. I doubt anybody got any sleep. It's only a matter of time before the looters try to break into our house. We have to get out of here. That skinny man approached us again. He traded us more of his bullets for some of our food. He offered us to join him in his hideout. He says it's secure and, more importantly, hidden. Easily defendable is how he described it. He said the only reason he trusts me is because I have kids. I don't think we can stay here anymore. He seems like a trustworthy guy. I'm going to suggest to everyone tomorrow that we take him up on his offer. And then we have another note, and this just starts to build out other characters, right? So Susan, but also tries to talk about what they're trying to build here, right? So again, she's into more of the gardening, the creation of different things using a pretty smart method. So let's read this one. Hey, Susan, I just wanted to drop you a quick line and say these rain catchers were a great idea. Super smart to gather water without leaving the place. I hope you don't mind, but I gave the kids a couple of water guns, so of course I've been drenched all day. If you don't want them to have it, let me know and I'll take them back. See you at dinner tonight. Fair warning, though, Kyle is making his special meatloaf again. So 2 final notes here. This is when things really start to go wrong. In fact, this is when it goes wrong. One of them is from Ish, and then we'll see a different one from Kyle. So the Ish, his final statement, basically. One open door. That's all it took. One of us forgot to close a door, and a horde of those monsters entered our camp. We shut them in there and wrote a warning on the outside. Susan and a couple of the kids are with me. As far as I know, we're the only survivors. I had to hold Susan so she wouldn't run back in there, go back for the bodies. It's just too dangerous. She lost her children, and I have no clue what to say to her. Every part of my being just wants to give up. It'd be so easy to surrender to this world. I can't do that, though. I have too much faith in humanity. I've seen that we're still capable of good. We can make it. I have to stay strong for her. So again, an entire, I would say, shift of character, right? Very powerful. And also very, I would honestly argue, realistic in the fact that just opening, just one door, right, was left open by accident. And they don't even identify, and they don't know who actually did it. There is no, like, culprit. Somebody just accidentally left the door open one day. They all came in, infected, clickers, all that stuff, and it was game over, right, for the survivors. A lot of them. Now, some of them did make it out, and the story of Ish remains not completed. As far as we know, Ish, Susan, and some of the kids, they made it, and they're still... Now, there's a jump between Last of Us 1 and 2, and I'm sure another one between 2 and 3. You know, I don't know if any of them make it further, you know, beyond that, but as far as we know, at least in the events of this, they were okay. And then we have the final note from Kyle, and there's also some context clues in the world that finish off kind of what his statements are. So let's read Kyle's note. We're trapped. I think everyone else is dead. Some of the little ones are with me. I got infected pounding at the door. I don't know how long we'll hold out. If Ish and the others are alive, maybe they can reach us. They have to reach us. If it comes down to it, I'll make it quick. And so a couple context things. You do see a skeleton, and that seems to be Kyle. You also see 3 other smaller skeletons underneath a blanket. Those are the kids. And then in front of the door, written in red on the floor, is a line that says, they didn't suffer. And so why is this whole thing, you know, a thing at all? Why is this something that's worth talking about? Well, again, there's a difference between, you know, showing, not telling, or telling, not showing, right? There's that kind of age-old argument. And what's so unique about this story, I think, is it's kind of both, right? Technically, we are told a lot of this stuff, but we're told it only if you really want to. We're also shown it because a large amount of this map or this chapter of The Last of Us is taking place in the remnants of their little civilization. So you're almost required to look, right? Because you're going to be walking around, you're going to be seeing these different things. Of course, you're going to see it. That's actually why I think The Last of Us show did a really good job, because it was kind of the same thing. You see the picture of Ish and Danny. You're left wondering, if you've never played the games, if you don't know the other notes, you're just left with seeing it and saying, okay, these two, you know, they seem like they know what they're doing. You can see all of these like children play things. You see paintings on 2 different, you know, rooms on their walls. you know something happened here. And Joel, in fact, even kind of talks about it, that maybe this was a guy who was trying to do something, but these things kind of fail, and Joel had said that. And I thought that was incredibly powerful and a really good line delivery from Pedro Pascal, because it's like he predicted it. Like, one stupid small thing could happen and the entire thing gets ruined. And he said something along those lines, which is kind of what happened. Now, the game's a bit different, right? This is a swapping of, right, when Sam and Ellie kind of swap protectors that are there with them, and you're fighting, and when you leave, you have to face like that huge wave of infected and clickers, and it's, you know, it's crazy. It's a lot longer. It's a lot more played out, and you're trying to figure out, again, with these notes, you're trying to figure out what was going on. But I just think for a story that's not a cutscene, right? It's not a cutscene. It's not told directly to you. There's not a character uttering lines of, oh, here's the story of Ish. First this happened, then this happened. No. You know, again, a lot of it you have to kind of read these notes to put together the story of what happened. This guy who was a loner, who went his separate way, and then he had to come to land, right, because of his boat, and then he wanted to still remain alone. He lucked out, I guess, right, and found a really good spot. And then he kind of just met people and decided, well, I mean, if they eliminate me, they eliminate me. We have to try to do something. And they created something. They created something really, really successful for an okay amount of time. And again, now that is the stuff that you see. You see their success. You see what it was in the tunnel system, right, of what they were able to do. And then, you know, as you keep going and as you keep reading, you find out things went wrong. Just one simple, stupid thing. And then you have, honestly, kind of that heartbreaking story of Kyle, right? Everybody gets split up. Kyle brings some children into a room. They lock themselves in. They're okay, but the infected are there. You only have, you know, a couple options, and he chose the, you know, eliminating all of them option, because that was kind of it. And that, you know, it's sad. It's sad to have seen that stuff kind of play out, although you don't really see it. In fact, if you're looking straight ahead, right, you're not really paying attention, you may not even know that. And so again, another thing that I guess makes this powerful is this is such a cool story, such a unique story, that is entirely skippable, depending on how kind of aware you are of your situation, or if you care. I mean, there's plenty of people that play games that they don't read every diary entry or journal entry, right? I mean, that stuff can sometimes get boring. I don't really blame people for not doing it. Sometimes you have games like this, though, where they're really kind of engrossing, right? But people skip that stuff. So now, again, like the walls and the environment, and, you know, they're playing with toys eventually, Sam and Ellie, right? You'll inevitably see something that may make you question, oh, I wonder what happened here. But you can still largely skip this entire kind of backstory. And for as good of a backstory as it is, to be entirely skippable is nuts, is absolutely nuts. So there you go. And, you know, again, just mentioned barely in The Last of Us show, but just enough. I think that was a really cool moment, cool scene. And they spent a lot of time in that room. And in the game, obviously, you get the full thing. So let me know what you guys think of it in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.